Welcome back. So statistics released by the Basic Education Department paint a bleak picture when it comes to teen suicide and attempts. The Health Department says 7,426 children were treated for attempted suicide across the country between April and December. That's averaging 928 children being treated in a month. SADC Project Manager for Education, Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha, joins us to discuss this. Roshni, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think when you start to put the number in context of what they look like per month, that is terrifying. I mean, even if you were to split it into provinces, that's 100 children in each province every month attempting suicide, if you were to do that sort of mathematics. But what do you make of those numbers? Do they sound real?
They are incredibly real and incredibly shocking and incredibly tragic. As the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, we go out into schools and we see this firsthand on the ground. These children are going through a lot. There is so much that they are dealing with, and it's incredibly hard for them to know who to reach out to and how to deal with all of the stress and all of these pressures. They often feel very, very overwhelmed.
What are some of those pressures? I think a lot of the time, adults tend to believe the lives of children are so much easier than our own, right? It's what we do all the time. But talk to us about those pressures that children are facing that perhaps are simply misunderstood.
There are so many different things, Naledi, and we've been speaking about it constantly over the last few days and the last few weeks and the last few months. And we talk about Teen Suicide Prevention Week this week, but for the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, it's every single day. It's a constant topic that we talk about. It's not just one thing that every child deals with. It's a layer of things that happen. It's bullying, and it's not just in-person bullying. It's online, it's emotional bullying, it's physical bullying. It is family pressures, it's family conflicts, it's mental health struggles. So many of these kids are dealing with mental health struggles. It's pressure at school, it's pressure at home, it's pressure to succeed, it's pressure to do better. There's so many different things that they are dealing with. And yes, as parents, it's so easy for us to say, well, what do you have to complain about? What are you so depressed about? I'm doing all the hard work. I'm paying for you to go to school. But what we don't understand is that it is so much more difficult for them. And we had a lot more support when we were younger. These kids have different pressures and they have a lot less support, and they just don't know who to reach out to, and they don't know if they can actually speak about the problems that they have without feeling judged.
Yeah, that's the difficulty, right? And so then the question becomes, are they reaching out for help where they aren't places for them to really be heard? Are they using platforms like SADC? And if not, where are they going to vent, if at all?
So the reason SADC chose to engage with teens and parents over social media this year for Teen Suicide Prevention Week, you'll see that a lot of our awareness campaign this week is on social media, is because we found that that's where the teens actually are. They are on social media. That's where we find them. And that's where they are looking for that support. Yeah. But when we do go out to the schools and when they do call us in, they do look out for that help, and they do find those people. We'll ask the kids, who do you reach out to? And a lot of times, some of them will say, I speak to a teacher, or I speak to a church leader, or I speak to my grandmother, or I actually speak to my parents, or everyone has someone that they speak to. But you will find that group of kids who will say, I have no one to speak to. I feel like I am being judged. I feel like they will laugh at me. And so it's a bit of a mixed bag. There are some that do know who to reach out to, and there are some that say, well, I'm glad that there's an organization like SADC that I can speak to, and I can say, okay, this is what I am feeling. Tell me how to get that help.
Here's the issue, Roshni. If we're looking at 7,400 teens attempting suicide in 8 months, before the suicide happens, there's a lot of depression before that. And that's essentially what we need to get to, right? Get to the point where the numbers have come down because we've dealt with it beforehand, before a child is in a hospital seeking medical attention because they've tried to end their lives. But parents don't necessarily know what to look out for. Naledi's reclusive. She hides out in her bedroom more. She's not very talkative. What the tools, what should they look like and how available are they to parents?
I think in terms of what we need to look out for, the first thing we need to do is not see any of that behavior as attention-seeking behavior. I think the biggest mistake we all make is we say, oh, well, she's just looking for attention, because often these kids do reach out for help. They do say things like, I'm not feeling really great. I think I want to hurt myself. And the reality is a lot of these kids actually do say that. And we're just like, you're looking for attention again. It's because I'm not giving you enough time. What do you want from me now? And that is not attention-seeking behavior. For that child to say something like, I don't want to live anymore. So a lot of times these kids actually do say that. We need to pay so much attention to what they actually are doing on their social media. What they are posting on their social media. Oftentimes the suicide happens and then friends will say, oh yes, he did post something. But we thought, he was just doing, because he's done it before, and we never know when that is going to be the last time that he actually does it. But for parents, look out for those changes in your behavior. Yes, Naledi might love staying in her room, but why is she constantly in her room? Why doesn't she want to speak to anyone? Has something happened? Why does Naledi not want to go to school? Is something happening at school? Why is Naledi so sad? Or why is she always sleeping when she actually doesn't like sleeping that much? So look out for changes in their behavior, and it has to be drastic changes. So if, for example, Naledi is someone that loves sleeping and continues to sleep, that's fine. But if Naledi loves to be awake and is a jovial person who's constantly busy and now is sleeping all the time, then that's a change in her behavior that we need to look out for. Is she picking up weight or losing weight? Is she eating too much or eating too little? Is she saying things that we need to look out for? Often we are so worried to ask that question, are you thinking of hurting yourself? And that is a question we must ask, because it's a conversation starter. And often it's the one question that actually opens up that can of worms that sometimes we're too scared to ask or open, because we don't know how to deal with it. And as parents and as caregivers, it's okay not to know. It is okay not to know, because that's what SADAG is there for. That's what all the professionals are there for. That's what we are there to help with. But you need to ask that question.
But
you are spending too much time in your room and I am worried about you. Are you thinking of hurting yourself?
Roshni.
And if you are, we've got help. Yes.
That's where I was going to go. Because for a parent, number one, it's terrifying to ask that question, but say you do and the answer is yes. What do you do then?
Your heart immediately drops to the floor, because then, okay, now what do I do with all this information? And so, number one, call SADAG. If you don't know what to do with it, call SADAG. It's okay to say, I've never felt like that before, so I don't know what to do. But you know what? I've heard about this organization. It's called the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. I know their number. Let's call them. Let's see what our resources are. The reality is that one thing does not work for everyone. Not everyone may need a psychologist or a psychiatrist or medication. We need to speak to you. We need to know what's happening. And like I mentioned before, there are so many different things that are happening. I'm struggling at school. Why are you struggling at school? Because I can't work at home. Why can't you do your work at home? Because mom and dad are constantly bickering. Why are they bickering? Because we don't have money. Why don't you have money? Because dad lost his job. There are so many layers to the problem. We have to unpack all of that for us to figure out, okay, what's the best solution for you? And the one thing that SADAG has is an extensive referral system. We know what the resources are in your area. And so we can say to you, okay, step 1 is this, step 2 is that, step 3 is that. And often the most daunting thing is, where do I start? There's all these resources. I don't even know where to start. And so with SADAG, we can say to you, start at place A, and then you'll go to place B, and this is what we are going to do step by step. And that's what often helps.
Yeah. And, if you've used SADAG before, you'd know that they check in as well, to check in. Did you follow the steps, which I think is an absolutely incredible work. Talk to me about what the number is, how easily accessible SADAG is, because we can sit here and talk about the numbers, but really what's most important is at the end of this discussion, when we look at the numbers, they need to be much less and hopefully at zero, but that's obviously quite optimistic. But give us the resources that we need at the moment.
So I think the most important thing to know is that SADAG is operational 24/7, 365 days a year. We never ever close. So if you are feeling really sad at 3 p.m. in the afternoon or 3 a.m. in the morning, there's always a counselor available to answer your call. And so that number is 0800 567 567. We have a website, www.sadag.org, that has all of the resources that are available to you, whether it is our WhatsApp number, whether it is our SMS number. If you feel like you would like a counselor to call you back and you are too afraid to make that call, SMS us on 31393 and a counselor will call you back. But the number that you really just need to keep handy is 0800 567 567. A counselor will take your call, will counsel, will contain, will go through all of those steps, and then we will refer you on. And like Naledi mentioned, we do follow-ups to make sure that you got the right sort of help that you needed.
Yeah. Roshni, incredible work. And I hope that those calls do come in, because the more calls you get, says the more lives we're saving. Keep up the good work. Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha there, who's a project manager for education at the South Africa Depression and Anxiety Group.